Looks like I've got myself an audience over there. G'day guys. Hi. Love kangaroos and I love macadamia nuts. So here I am talking about my macadamia tree because I've had a lot of people asking me about macadamias and how to grow them since I've seen this tree in quite a few of my videos when I do garden tours. Anyway, g'day everybody, I'm Daz. This is my Aussie Gardening Kitchen, Garden Edition, and the macadamia tree. Now, the first thing I wanted to say to you is that you really need to get one or more into the ground as soon as possible. They're a beautiful tree, but they take so long to fruit and give you those beautiful nuts. You could be waiting up to 10 years to get a decent load of nuts off a macadamia tree. And this one here, this one's about 6 years old. It's not flowered yet. I'm still waiting for macadamia nuts. So unlike other fruit trees that will give you fruit after a couple of years, you really need to get something like this into the ground as soon as possible and get it growing, because talking about doing it one day is just going to make that pay off at the end further and further away. So yep, first thing, get your macadamia trees or tree and get them into the ground or a pot now. Macadamia trees, once matured, will start giving you fruit and they will bear fruit for a number of decades. So initially, after the say 6 to 7 year period, you'll start to hopefully get those flowers and those nuts. Maybe a little earlier if you've got beautiful conditions, but say around that time. And then over the years, I think it's around year 10, you should really start to see proper harvests, nice big harvests where you're going to enjoy all that wait time, all the benefits of all that wait time on your macadamia tree. So very quickly, I'll just explain how to plant a macadamia tree, and it's very similar to other fruit trees in your yard. You're going to dig a hole double the size of the root ball. You're going to backfill that with some nice soil and compost, give it a good watering in, give it some mulch. The mulch is going to keep the moisture in, stop weeds and grass. It's going to break down and be organic material eventually. And essentially, that is how you plant your macadamia tree, either in the ground or into a pot. Quite simple, like other fruit trees. Oh, and at the watering in stage, maybe a little bit of fertilizer just to kickstart it, but not too much. You don't want to burn those roots if it's a really young tree. To grow a macadamia nut by seed, just take a macadamia nut without the outer husk and put that nut into water, some warm water, for 24 hours. And then after the 24 hours is up, you take that nut and you put it into some soil in a pot, making sure the crack is facing sideways. And then what's going to happen is that a little tail with roots is going to come out of that crack over the next 5 to 6 weeks with any luck. And then a little tree will start to grow. Once you've got a little sapling growing there, you can take that out, put that into a bigger pot, and there you go. You're on your way to growing a big macadamia tree. Now, you can grow macadamias from seed, but if you want to get a head start by a few years, by all means, try and find a nice sized one. They might be a bit expensive, but by all means, you can cut a few years off your wait time by buying an already established fruit tree or macadamia tree of whatever size. As far as location goes, you really need a nice sunny spot that's frost free. Now, macadamias are very popular overseas, and there's actually quite a lot of people overseas that think they come from Hawaii because they're grown commercially in Hawaii quite successfully. But macadamias are actually bush tucker. They're Australian natives from northeastern Australia. They're an absolutely beautiful nut, and they really need those conditions, similar conditions, to grow successfully and give you those beautiful, delicious, buttery but crunchy nuts. Now, from what I understand, macadamia trees are unlike other fruit trees when it comes to pruning, because you don't actually need to prune them to encourage fruit. You can and should prune your macadamia trees, but that's more to open up the inside to let sunlight and airflow get through to the tree. It's more of a shaping and maintenance of the tree rather than trying to encourage fruit buds like you would on, say, an apple tree. If you've not seen a macadamia tree in person, the leaves are quite firm. They're a little bit sharp on the edge and they can scratch, spike a little bit, I guess you could say. So if you are pruning or maintaining the tree, just maybe wear some gloves, eye protection, and just be conscious that you are dealing with leaves that are harder than normal and they can possibly harm you or scratch your eye and things like that. You could try to grow them in a container. I'm not really familiar with that with macadamias. I would imagine that by growing them in the container, you're going to have to keep the size limited, and by limiting the size of the tree, you're going to limit the size of the harvest that you like. Maybe if you only need a few nuts, maybe if you're a single person and that's all you want for yourself, by all means, you could look into that. But I do think when it comes to macadamia trees, they're better off in the ground, letting them grow into nice big mature trees, and over time you will just have to cut them back as you need if they're getting too big. Macadamia trees really need to be watered and are like a good feeding too. So a couple of times over the year you can feed them. I recommend giving them an Australian native fertiliser. Macadamias are a part of the Protea family, so that means they're a bit sensitive to phosphorus. So when you've got your fertiliser that's got nitrogen, potassium and phosphorus, just make sure you've got a lower level of phosphorus. You really don't need that much. And when you're looking at the stage where the tree is going to flower and give you nuts eventually, you don't want to give it too much nitrogen. Too much nitrogen is going to promote the growth of leaves and not flowers, and you don't want that. For me, I like to feed it once in autumn or fall, and the other time would be in spring. That's it, twice a year, job done. And macadamias do rely on pollinators such as bees to pollinate the flowers so you can eventually get those delicious nuts off the tree. Now, when it comes to harvesting macadamia nuts, that's going to happen in the cold season and they're going to drop to the ground. So you can go along and pick them up off the ground. And then what you do is you'll crack them out of those shells and you'll roast them. You need to roast them after cracking them out of the shells. And then as the season goes and is about to end, if you've still got them on the tree, you can pluck them off the tree at the end of the season and also roast those and enjoy your macadamia nuts just like the other ones that you've harvested off the ground. So as I said, get out there and get your macadamia trees growing as soon as possible, because the longer you put it off, the longer you're going to wait for your delicious macadamia nuts. And if you've seen the prices of them in the supermarkets, that's just one reason alone why you should be growing your own produce at home, especially macadamia nuts. If you don't mind, I'd love for you to check out this video on the screen right here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. And I will hopefully see you in the next cooking or gardening video. Bye for now.